Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rising Sign Astrology. Thanks for being here. Today, we're taking a closer look at the astrology of July 2025, specifically with a special focus on Uranus entering Gemini and how this major transit will affect you by rising sign. As always, I use Western whole sign house astrology as the foundation. That said, I do integrate insights from Vedic astrology as well as fixed stars when they're relevant to the conversation. And for the most accurate insights, I recommend listening for your rising sign first, since that shows how the transits are playing out in real areas of your life. And then check for sun sign for themes around career, goals, and identity. And lastly, your moon sign to understand how these shifts may influence your emotional world and home life. And if you enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss future video uploads. And if you find these insights helpful, a quick like or comment really helps support the channel and tells the algorithm that the content's worth sharing with others. So with that, let's get into it. So Uranus will enter Gemini on July 7th of 2025. Then in November, it's going to briefly retrograde back into Taurus for one final visit. Then finally, in April of 2026, Uranus will re-enter Gemini for good, where it's going to remain until early 2033. So Uranus spends about 7 years in each zodiac sign, which means its effects are long-term and generational. And the full orbit takes 84 years, so most people experience Uranus in each sign just once in their lifetime. And Uranus is the planet known as the Great Awakener. It governs sudden change, disruption, rebellion, invention, but also innovation and technology. And Uranus challenges the status quo, breaking apart what's outdated and ushering in what's often, what's next, but often through unpredictable or even shocking events. And it has no regard for tradition or what's been. It is only looking towards the future. And Uranus is the planet of genius, right? It rules electricity and breakthroughs. It brings together intellect and intuition to unlock universal truths for individuals. So, in many ways, it's considered the higher octave of Mercury, and it pushes people beyond logical thought into very original, often radical insight. And people with strong Uranus placements are often pioneers or inventors or just outliers in some way. They don't follow the trends, they're the ones that start them. And since May of 2018, Uranus has been in Taurus. So it's been shaking up systems related to money, resources, food, agriculture, even the environment. And we've seen shifts in the banking world, right? Digital assets, crypto, as well as disruptions in global supply chains that affected food, and more attention generally to sustainability. Now, Uranus often enters a sign with a jolt, and back in 2018, its ingress aligned almost exactly with the major event of the Fukushima disaster incident, right? A reminder that these themes of shock, electricity, upheaval are all in Uranus's domain. Now, next, it moves into Gemini, the sign of communication, technology, education, media, marketing, trade, and transportation. So, expect rapid developments in all of those things that are Mercury related. We could see radical shifts in how we learn, how we teach, travel, even speak and connect. So think tech-driven education or new transportation modes or disruptions in media, marketing, social media, as well as journalism and publishing. And Gemini also rules commerce. So think markets or business models and digital trade undergoing major transformation. Now, if you look back at the last few times Uranus passed through Gemini, there are some pretty historical, moments and references to pull up. So, looking back most recently, 1941, to 1948. And this coincided with World War II, the rise of computers and communications tech during that time, as well as the post-war boom as it related to those things. Now, going back a little bit further to 1858, that coincided with the telegraph revolution, again, communication. So the early seeds of the industrial age of communication were planted and started expanding around this time. And going back even further, of Uranus and Gemini, you see 1774 to 1782, which is this time of the American Revolution. Again, a period driven by radical new ideas, rebellion, freedom, and messaging around independence. So that's a little bit of the backstory. Now we're going to break this down by rising sign. So I'm going to start with just a quick look back about how Uranus and Taurus may have reshaped one area of your life over the last 7 years. And then I'll pivot and shift towards the future and see what Uranus and Gemini is likely to activate for you next. Okay, so Aries rising. Over the past 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your second house, which rules personal income, possessions, financial stability, and your sense of self-worth. So this period likely brought unexpected shifts in how you earn money or manage money. You may have experienced sudden changes in income, perhaps through job changes or unstable revenue streams, or through pursuing more unconventional or independent ways of making a living. And if you started freelancing or embraced digital entrepreneurship or explored crypto, that would have been very in line with this energy. And this transit would have also challenged you to detach from outdated definitions of success and security and what they mean to you. So you may have had to let go of financial patterns or values that no longer served you. And it likely pushed you to ask deeper questions like, what do I need to feel secure, or what's truly valuable to me? So Uranus through the second house would not have been a smooth ride. There may have been a lot of financial uncertainty, ups and downs in that department, as well as fluctuations in self-esteem and how you value yourself. But the larger purpose here was to liberate you from your previous financial habits or attachments that would have limited your freedom. And ideally, by now, you're walking into a more flexible and innovative and hopefully self-directed relationship with money and self-worth. But now, beginning in July of 2025 and fully locking in place in April of 26, Uranus enters your third house, where it's going to stay until 2033. So this is the area of your chart that rules communication, thought patterns, learning, local travel, neighbors, siblings, and your immediate environment. So over the next, 7-8 years, you can expect rapid and radical shifts in these parts of your life. Your mind itself will likely be more stimulated than usual, but also probably restless, right? You can feel compelled to explore all of these new ideas or take up and learn different skill sets or dive into new technologies, right? You may be jumping from one learning path to another or from one communication platform to a new one. So it's a great time for getting involved in like digital media or podcasting, writing, even teaching, right? Any field that requires some form of fresh and innovative thinking. But with Uranus here, your communication style may be more direct or abrupt than usual, even disruptive. So staying aware of your tone and your timing is going to help relationships go more smoothly, especially with folks like siblings or those you interact with daily in your local environment. And you may very well likely find yourself on the move more often, right? Think short trips, sudden relocations, or changes in your local environment. All these are possible. So how you commute, how you connect, even how you relate to your neighborhood could shift dramatically. You could adapt new forms of transportation at this time, get a new vehicle, or maybe go for an electric vehicle or see changes in your physical surroundings that maybe start to reflect these broader changes that are going on in your mind. But this transit is about mental liberation. So you're going to be breaking away from any patterns of rigid thinking or any outdated belief systems or just communication habits that no longer fit. So you may surprise yourself with how much, your interests or thought processes evolve during this time. And the challenge is to avoid scattering your energy or becoming too mentally overloaded, because that can happen here. The opportunity is to embrace the innovation and to stay adaptable, and feel confident in expressing yourself in this new way that probably has a greater amount of originality and authenticity to it, because that's what Uranus would be pushing for. Now, the past 7 years really redefined how you handle money, how you earn, how you value yourself. And the next 7 is going to revolutionize how you think, speak, learn, and interact with the world. So stay curious and open, but grounded. And this period can really sharpen your mind and expand your influence in your local environment and community. So good luck. If you're seeing signs of this already, please drop a comment below. And if this resonated, please like the video. Take care. Okay, my Taurus risings. So for the past 7 years, you've had Uranus moving through your first house, right? This was probably not easy. This is the area of the chart that governs your identity, your appearance, your personality, and just your overall life direction. So this would have been a period of deep personal reinvention. And whether it was obvious or not to others, you've likely undergone significant changes in how you see yourself and how you present yourself to the world. At times, it likely felt very uncomfortable, especially since Taurus and the energy, that Taurian energy naturally prefers stability and consistency. But Uranus doesn't do stability, it does disruption, and it promotes growth through change. So you may have experienced a series of shifts in your life, your lifestyle, as well as your physical appearance. Even your general approach to life could have changed. You could have started dressing differently or asserting yourself more boldly and choosing a path that was less traditional but more aligned with your truth. And that probably surprised others, or maybe it surprised yourself, right? Maybe you looked and saw how much you've grown or how much you've detached from labels that others put on you. And maybe you stopped caring about that and stopped caring about fitting in general. And this transit would have pushed you to break out of those old versions of yourself and forced you into a new one and to explore your independence in a bold new way. And by now, you've likely become much more self-aware and more comfortable with being different, or at least less interested in being predictable. And Uranus in your first house demanded that you liberate your identity from any outdated roles or expectations that others put on you, even if that meant uncertainty. And now in July, Uranus is moving into your second house, where it's going to stay until 2033. So this next phase is going to focus on your finances, your income, your possessions, your values, and your sense of self-worth. While the last 7 years were about reinventing who you are, the next 7 will challenge and upgrade how you earn and what you value. So expect change in your financial life. Some of it unexpected, some of it positive, some of it maybe not so positive, but either way, it's pushing you towards growth. So you might shift income sources or start working in a new or unconventional field, or explore more digital or innovative ways of making money. You may adopt a freelance lifestyle or explore cryptocurrency. Maybe pursue income streams that feel more aligned with your own unique and individual talents or ideals. That's what Uranus is going to push for. However, at the same time, Uranus can bring volatility. So it's good to be aware of that. And it's important to stay flexible and avoid being overly rigid with your financial plans. Think innovation and adaptability over just predictability. At a deeper level, this transit is going to be about detaching from external measures of success and redefining what value really means to you. So you may find that your priorities shift. You could lose interest in material accumulation and just, chasing money. And you become more focused on freedom and purpose and sustainability. At the end of the day, this is a powerful time to align with your finances, and make sure that they're reflecting and matching what your values are. But it may require letting go of old habits around money or old jobs or just like security that's just not really serving you in the long run. So you may upgrade your skills as well or explore entirely new ways of using your voice with Uranus here. And you would then leverage that to help you earn a living, especially anything tied to technology, media, marketing, communication, since Gemini rules all of those themes. But the bottom line would be that for the last 7 years, you've gone through the work of restructuring your identity. And you've been learning how to be you authentically, no matter how disruptive that process felt or how unpleasant other people looked at it. And now Uranus is turning its attention to your material world. So this is a time to innovate how you earn, how you spend, how you define value, your relationship with money. And it's not going to always be smooth, but if you stay adaptable and open to exploring new financial paths, it could really set you up for long-term freedom and alignment in as it relates to your self-worth and financial matters. So best of luck. If this resonated, please drop a comment below or like the video. And yeah, good luck. Okay, Gemini risings, the star of the show. So over the past 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your 12th house, right? The part of the chart that governs the subconscious, solitude, hidden fear, self-sabotage, as well as spirituality and just endings and letting go. So this is not an external or very visible part of the chart or of life. It's very internal. But you've likely gone through a quiet and powerful period of awakening behind the scenes. So this transit may have brought restlessness in your inner world. You might have experienced unexpected mental or emotional shifts, or maybe anxiety or vivid dreams, or maybe just a growing need for isolation and solitude. You may have felt disconnected from the outside world at times, either by choice or by circumstance. And you were pushed to then confront any unconscious patterns or limiting belief systems or even self-sabotaging behaviors in your solitude, right? Old psychological baggage could have resurfaced or surfaced, but so it could be released, right? That was Uranus's way of cleaning up and clearing space for something new. You may have also found new or unconventional spiritual practices. Perhaps you got into meditation or energy healing or astrology, right? And maybe that helped make sense of what was happening inside of you. And while the transit can feel confusing or even isolating at times, its purpose is liberation, right? Freeing you from internal blockages that quietly shaped your choices for years. And by now, you're probably much more aware of how your inner life impacts your outer reality and ready to move forward with a much clearer sense of self. Now, starting in July, and, not going to be fully anchored in until April of 26, but Uranus enters your first house. And this is you. This is the part of the chart that rules your identity, your physical appearance, and your overall approach to life. So over the next 7-8 years, you can expect significant changes in how you see yourself and how you show up in the world. This is a transit of personal reinvention. You may change how you dress, how you speak, even how you think or what you pursue in life. And others may see you as more eccentric or more independent or even more unpredictable at this time. But that's because you're becoming more aligned with your authentic self. And if you've been living according to other people's expectations, then Uranus will push you to break free and walk your own path, even if it surprises those around you. You'll likely feel a strong urge to assert your individuality. And this can be an incredibly empowering time, but it also comes with a warning of volatility. You could feel restless, impatient, or experience identity shifts, and they may be hard to explain. The key, though, is not to resist the change, but to shape it consciously, right? You're meant to experiment at this time, to try new versions of yourself on for size, and to ultimately land in a place that feels more real and more free, depending upon how you define those terms yourself. So your energy may also become more fast paced, more electric, more mentally charged, and it would be a powerful time to share your ideas, to share your voice, and to challenge the status quo, not only in your personal life, but potentially your professional life, because the first house is you and how you show up everywhere. So just be mindful of coming across as too reactive or too impulsive, because Uranus can make you feel like you need to change everything like immediately, like right now. But real freedom is going to come when you make those choices more thoughtfully. So in the end, the last 7 years really cleared out your inner world, and now Uranus turns its attention to you, right? So expect a powerful phase of personal reinvention marked by increased independence, authenticity, and probably a few unexpected turns, right? You're no longer who you were before, and you don't need to be. And now it's time to redefine yourself on your own terms, on those new terms. So it's a time to let go of old labels and really let your future self emerge. So if this was helpful or resonated, please let me know. Like the video or drop a comment below. Good luck. Okay, Cancer rising. So for the past 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your 11th house, which governs friendships, social circles, long-term goals, as well as your sense of community. And during this time, your social life and your future plans have likely undergone a noticeable shift, sometimes suddenly and often in ways you didn't see coming. You may have experienced changes in your friendships, like some people exited your life unexpectedly, while new, unconventional, or like-minded individuals entered. Group dynamics may have become unstable, or you may have found yourself distancing yourself from traditional networks to seek out more progressive or visionary communities. So if you felt disconnected from old social groups or causes, it was Uranus pushing you to find people and purposes that align with the future you're growing into, not the past that you're outgrowing. And on a deeper level, your vision for the future likely shifted. What once seemed like a clear goal may have felt outdated or unfulfilling. You may have scrapped old 5-year plans or embraced more innovative ideas, especially involving tech or activism or even social reform. And Uranus in this house reorientates you towards long-term goals that are more authentic and aligned with your evolving values, even if that path is less conventional or predictable. But now, beginning in July and settling in fully in April, Uranus moves into your 12th house, the realm of the subconscious, hidden fears, self-sabotaging behavior, as well as solitude, spirituality, and endings. So this is likely a very different kind of transit, where the last 7 years were more external and social. The next phase is going to be inward and more behind the scenes. So expect your inner world to become more active and possibly more unpredictable. You may begin to question beliefs or patterns that have long operated under the surface, right? Old fears or habits or emotional baggage can rise to the surface at this time to be released. And at times, this can feel isolating or even disorientating, but it's actually part of a larger liberation process that Uranus is trying to play out. Because Uranus in the 12th house helps you break free from unconscious limitations, what you don't see but still influences your choices, right? And this can also be a powerful time for spiritual growth, especially through unconventional means. You could be drawn to meditation or dream work or therapy. even astrology or energy healing at this time. And solitude may become more important to you. And not because you're withdrawing, but because you're integrating. Insights may come in flashes or through dreams. You're going to get intuitive hits during moments of quiet reflection. So if you work in a creative or healing or even a spiritual field, this transit can be very innovative and can bring breakthroughs for you. At times, though, you may feel more detached from the world, or like you're going through like a personal transformation that others can't quite see, but is happening. And that's normal, because Uranus here is clearing space internally so that when it reaches your first house in 2033, you're ready to reinvent yourself outwardly with clarity as well as freedom. So, in retrospect, the last 7 years would have reshaped your friendships and long-term goals, pushing you towards more authentic social connections and a new vision for your future. And now Uranus turns inward, asking you to do the same kind of renovation, but on the inside. So this is a period for deep healing, spiritual exploration, and just letting go of hidden baggage or addictions. So don't fight the need for rest or reflection. I would say embrace it. And what you release now is going to clear the path for a powerful new identity to emerge in Uranus's next cycle. So if this was helpful or resonated, please drop a comment or like the video. Good luck. Okay, Leo risings. So for the past 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your 10th house, which rules career, public image, your status, and long-term goals. And this transit likely brought major changes in your professional life, and sometimes sudden, even disruptive, but ultimately, changes that were aimed at pushing you towards more authenticity in how you show up in the world. You may have changed careers, lost or left a job unexpectedly, or taken new professional paths that feel more unconventional or different, but also aligned with who you really are. And if you stayed in the same field, the way you work or the structure around your work likely shifted, possibly through technology or maybe increased independence in your work or remote work, right? And for some Leo risings, this is a time of stepping away from traditional hierarchies or expectations and carving out a more innovative or self-directed role. And this transit also challenged how you think about success. You may have realized that titles, approval, status aren't enough if your work doesn't feel meaningful or aligned. So Uranus stripped away what felt false or rigid in your professional life, only to make space for a more flexible, future-facing version of success, in however you define that. And if your public image changed or if you were pushed to step outside of your comfort zone, it was part of a larger process of becoming more original and self-defined in the eyes of the world. But now, starting in July, Uranus moves into your 11th house, which governs friendships, social networks, communities, and long-term aspirations. So for the next 7 years, your social world and sense of purpose are likely to evolve rapidly. You can find yourself drawn to new groups or communities, especially those focused on technology or activism, even innovation, any shared ideals. And some long-standing friendships may fade away, while others arrive suddenly and play a key role in shaping your future. And Uranus in the 11th brings unusual but interesting and forward-thinking people into your life. And these connections may challenge your views or inspire you to think bigger or more creatively about what's actually possible. So this transit also brings innovation to your goal sector as well. The 11th house is your hopes, dreams, wishes, and goals. So those dreams and ambitions that motivated you in the past can start to feel outdated now, because Uranus is going to push you to think differently, more progressively about your future. You may pursue new causes or join digital platforms or some tech-related venture. Or maybe you become more involved in some collaborative projects that are able to reach wider audiences. The key here is flexibility, because your vision is going to expand, but it's not going to follow a straight line, right? It's not going to be linear. So expect real shifts in how you network, how you use social media, how you position yourself within your communities. Your voice can have a greater reach now, especially if you're sharing some new original ideas. And it's also a time to break away or break free from social expectations to find your own path, even if it means going against the grain in some way. Because the last 7 years really reshaped your career and your public identity, and it pushed you to break free from those traditional definitions of success in order to pursue a more authentic path for yourself. And now Uranus is turning its attention to your social world and your future vision and your goals. So expect evolving friendships, new communities, and new innovative goals for yourself. And embrace any collaborations that come up that feel aligned with you. Stay open to people that can be allies, even if it feels unexpected in some way. And just be willing to dream differently than you have before. Because the people you meet and the ideas you explore are going to really help shape the next chapter of your life. So if that resonated, if you've seen signs of this manifesting already, please drop a comment below or like the video, and good luck. Virgo rising. So over the past 7 years, Uranus was moving through your ninth house, which rules higher education, belief systems, travel, as well as philosophy and publishing, right? Anything that expands your worldview. And during this time, your outlook on life likely went under a major shakeup. What you once believed to be true or maybe stable could have changed, sometimes quickly, and sometimes through just surprising experiences that forced you to question long-held assumptions. This could have shown up as a shift in your educational path, or exposure to new philosophies, or sudden changes in your spiritual beliefs. You may have pursued alternative learning methods, or gotten involved with more progressive schools of thought, or even traveled to places that just opened up your mind in unexpected ways. And for some Virgo risings, this was a time of breaking away from either religious or cultural frameworks that felt restrictive or outdated. So if you work in publishing, academia, law, or any international field cross-culturally, there may have been changes in how you operate, especially involving technology or more independent remote methods. And overall, Uranus in this house would have asked you to expand in ways that are not linear or straight or traditional. It would have encouraged you to become more open-minded and more inventive in your thinking, and willing to embrace uncertainty as part of your growth. And beginning in July, Uranus enters your 10th house. So this is now the part of your chart that governs career, public status, your reputation, as well as, your long-term career aspirations. So over the next 7 years, you can expect significant and sometimes unexpected developments within your professional life. You may change careers entirely or radically shift how you pursue your definition of success. Some Virgo risings will move into more innovative or unconventional fields, especially those tied to media or marketing or communication or technology, even education, or think digital platforms, any Gemini ruled area. And if you felt boxed in by traditional career structures, Uranus will push you to take more risks and explore paths that offer greater freedom and more personal expression. And this transit will likely change how others see you, right? Your public image may go through an overhaul, and you might be called to step outside of your comfort zone and lead in a way that's more unique or future-facing. If you've been playing it safe or operating quietly behind the scenes, then Uranus is going to look to thrust you into the spotlight and push you to redefine what leadership means to you. So expect changes in the structure and direction of your career. Roles may come and go quickly, or your professional goals could evolve just as fastly as your interests shift. And try to stay adaptable and be willing to try new approaches, even if they challenge conventional wisdom or other people don't see the logic in it. this is a time to think ahead and use technology to your advantage, right? And really think about what you want to do and try to lean into work that stimulates your mind. Because the last 7 years has expanded your mind and challenged your beliefs. You were pushed to think bigger, to let go of old rigid frameworks and discover new truths. But now Uranus turns its focus to your career and public life. So as you prepare for professional reinvention in terms of what you do, how you do it, and how you're seen, there's just a lot of flux. So embrace the innovation, take calculated risks, and let your ambitions evolve because they're going to change. This is really your opportunity to align your work with who you've become and who it is you're going to become. So if you've seen signs of this already and this resonates, please drop a comment or like the video, and good luck. Okay, Libra rising. So for the past 7 years, you've had Uranus moving through your 8th house, which governs shared resources, intimacy, debt, inheritances, taxes, even psychological transformation, any themes around trust or vulnerability. And this transit likely brought some deep and sometimes disruptive changes in areas that are hidden or emotional or somehow tied to power dynamics. You may have experienced unexpected shifts in how you handle shared finances, such as joint bank accounts or loans, investments, or new business partnerships. You could have had sudden gains or losses in these areas, and they would have forced you to become more independent and take a closer look at your financial entanglements. This could have included things like a partner's income changing, or receiving an inheritance, or dealing with financial institutions in some new or unconventional way, right? Think crypto or online banking or some form of just non-traditional assets. But the 8th house is also about inner transformation. So over this period, you may have been pushed to confront buried fears or insecurities or just emotional patterns around control, intimacy, and trust. You may have gone through periods of emotional detachment or even had breakthroughs that helped you redefine what true connection and vulnerability really mean for you. And Uranus here served as a catalyst to help you break free from that psychological baggage you were carrying, only to emerge more emotionally self-aware as well as financially conscious. But now, starting in July, Uranus moves into your 9th house, which governs higher learning, long-distance travel, belief systems, religion, even philosophy and publishing, and just really broadening broader worldviews. So after 7 years of inner transformation, Uranus now turns the attention inward, or apologies, outward. So it's pushing you towards growth, expansion, and the bigger picture. And this is a transit that's going to challenge and reshape how you think about the world, right? Your beliefs, your opinions, your whatever your intellectual framework is, are all due to be shaken up with Uranus here. You can adopt a more unconventional philosophy at this time, or even explore fringe or progressive ideologies. Maybe you're going to question the systems that you always believed in, whether they're religious or academic or cultural, right? Something that you once accepted without much thought could really change. And this is about opening your mind to new perspectives, especially through real-world experiences or alternative learning paths. You can feel the urge to travel at this time, right? Especially to places that expose you to different ways of life or thinking. If you're in school or planning to pursue higher education, I would expect the unexpected at that time, right? Your field of study could shift, or you might find yourself drawn maybe to more tech-driven or online or just like experimental educational models, something non-conventional. But publishing, teaching, media work, all of these could become important, especially if your message is somehow unique or ahead of its time. But ultimately, this is a period of intellectual liberation. You need to be open to learning in non-traditional ways and engaging with ideas that challenge your assumptions. What you believe and how you make sense of the world is going to evolve dramatically over the next 7 or 8 years. And it's going to be sparked by events that catch you off guard, but also push you towards greater clarity and wisdom. Because the last 7 years transformed you from the inside out, especially around emotional depth, trust, and even finances. But now Uranus shifts into your 9th house and he's saying, okay, open your mind, expand your worldview. So expect shifts in beliefs, in travel and learning, and just the way you interpret life's bigger questions. The advice here would be to stay flexible, stay curious, and just learn to embrace the unexpected, because there are going to be things popping up that you just don't see coming. And this is going to be your chance to really redefine your truth with the world and broaden your perspective in a way that aligns with who you become on the inside these last 7 years. So if that resonated or you see signs of this manifesting already, please like or drop a comment below, and good luck. Okay, Scorpio rising. So you've been through it. The past 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your 7th house, which rules partnerships, marriage, one-on-one relationships, and long-term commitments. So during this time, your approach to relationships likely shifted in unexpected ways, whether romantic, professional, or personal. Your connections with others would have been tested, redefined, and even completely upended in some instances. And for some Scorpio risings, this meant breakups or separations or just an overall detachment from traditional relationship expectations. You may have entered or exited partnerships suddenly, or found yourself drawn to more unconventional relationship styles or even partners. This wasn't about destroying relationships, though, for the sake of it. It was about pushing you to be more honest about your needs for freedom, space, and authenticity within your commitments. And if you've clung to control or predictability in your relationships, Uranus would have likely forced you to loosen your grip, whether you like to or not. Because at its core, the transit was about liberating you from outdated dynamics, especially ones built on dependency, control, or social obligation. You were being pushed to create partnerships based on mutual respect and individuality, not just routine or security. But now, starting in July, Uranus is entering your 8th house, which governs intimacy and trust, as well as psychological transformation. It governs shared resources, your partner's income, inheritances, taxes, and just the deeper emotional bonds that you form with others. So over the next 7-8 years, the focus is going to shift from your external relationships to the emotional and even financial entanglements that are beneath them. So expect unexpected changes in joint finances. This might include a partner's income fluctuating, or changes in shared debt or assets, or exploring more unconventional approaches to money like crypto, or maybe some different ways of investing, or decentralized finance in some way. And business partnerships or alimony, inheritances, legal matters, anything involving money can become themes at this time. And Uranus tends to disrupt anything stagnant. So the more rigid or avoidant you've been around shared resources, the more likely it is that change is going to be required. This transit also digs into emotional territory, right? Uranus in your 8th house will likely bring up themes around trust and control and vulnerability and even letting go. You may detach from old fears or unconscious patterns around intimacy. And this would allow for a more liberated and self-aware way of connecting with others. So emotional breakthroughs, therapy, or deep inner work may become part of your growth path and story at this time. And while it can be a confronting transit in some ways, it's also very empowering when you allow yourself to release what just no longer serves who you are or your future evolution. So the last 7 years disrupted and redefined your relationships. It forced you to build connections that honor your freedom and individuality. And now Uranus moves into your eighth house, challenging you to evolve how you handle emotional closeness and shared resources. So it's time to shed outdated patterns around money, control, and vulnerability and move deeper and more conscious into new ways of connecting, both emotionally and financially. So stay open for change because it's really clearing the way for lasting empowerment in those areas. Now, if this resonated or you see signs of this manifesting already, please drop a comment below. Let me know. Or like the video. It really helps. And good luck. Okay, my Sagittarius rising. Sag rising. So for the past 7 years, you've had Uranus moving through your sixth house, which governs daily routines, your work environment, your physical health, your habits, and your service. So this transit likely brought disruptions or major shifts in how you approach your everyday life, especially around your job, wellness routines, and how you structure your days. You may have had experienced changes in your work situation, like switching jobs or working freelance or dealing with unpredictable bosses or unpredictable schedule changes and, needing more freedom in your day-to-day responsibilities. And if your work life felt rigid or uninspiring, Uranus likely pushed you to find something that was more flexible or unconventional, even more tech-driven in some way. And some Sag risings also became more interested in remote work, or maybe they started blending different income streams. You could have changed your job, maybe multiple times. And in terms of health, Uranus may have made your body more sensitive to stress or routine changes. You might have tried alternative wellness methods or healing, or had to adapt quickly to ever-changing health circumstances. Either way, you were being nudged to listen to your body more intuitively and break out of routines that are just no longer serving you. And at its core, the transit would have taught you how to live and work on your own terms, right? Freeing you from structures that felt limiting or encouraging you to build healthier, more sustainable habits that ultimately support your independence. But now, starting in July, Uranus moves into your seventh house, which governs committed relationships, marriage, business partnerships, and one-on-one dynamics. So over the next 7-8 years, expect big shifts in how you relate to others, especially in your closest bonds. If you're already in a partnership, it could be a time of redefinition. You may need more space or more autonomy, more room to grow within the relationship. And if the dynamic feels too conventional or too restrictive, Uranus could very well challenge that status quo, either prompting you to evolve together or maybe consider new terms of that relationship. So communication and mental connection, right, very Gemini themes, are going to be key. If those are missing, you're going to feel the urge to change things up in your closest one-on-one relationships. Now, if you're single, you can attract partners who are different from your normal type, right? People would come into your life that are more eccentric or more freedom-loving or just more intellectually stimulating. And these connections may come and go quickly, or they would challenge you to think differently about what commitment actually means. Some Sag risings may explore non-traditional relationship structures at this time as well. But this transit also affects professional partnerships. You might collaborate with people in tech or media or marketing or just in education or in the startup world, something entrepreneurial. You may be compelled to break free from traditional roles and to try to work more independently. The main theme here is Uranus wants you to have a relationship and relationships that support your growth, not limit it. So expect surprises, but also opportunities to form more authentic, future-orientated bonds, whether that be professionally or romantically or platonically. Now, in retrospect, the last 7 years reshaped how you approach your work, your routines, and your health, pushing you towards more flexible, mindful ways of living and working. And now Uranus moving into your seventh house is shaking up how you engage in your closest relationships. Whether it's love or business, your one-on-one partnerships are about to evolve. So stay open. It's going to be very important to communicate clearly with the other. And don't be afraid to redefine what partnerships look like in order to better reflect the person that you've become. So if this was helpful or you found this interesting or it resonated, please drop a comment below or feel free to like the video, and good luck. Capricorn rising. So for the last 7 years, you've had Uranus moving through your fifth house, which rules creativity, romance, children, pleasure, joy, even risk taking, right? Gambling. So this has likely been a period where your relationship with joy and spontaneity and self-expression changed. Something could have changed dramatically, and maybe not always predictably. You may have experienced unexpected developments in your romantic relationships, perhaps entering or exiting love affairs suddenly, or being drawn to people who were just unconventional or felt very exciting or just different from the norm. And if you're a parent, this transit may have coincided with surprises related to your children or shifts in how you relate to them, right? And creatively, you may have experimented more if you're an artist, right? Maybe you were trying new outlets or exploring new unusual interests, or just trying to break away from traditional standards of what's good or acceptable in whatever your self-expression or art would be. You were being pushed to take more creative risks and let go of perfectionism, even if that meant stepping outside of your comfort zone. And the transit would have encouraged you to rethink what you found fun and what fulfillment meant to you. And you likely started pursuing hobbies or passions that maybe you previously ignored, or maybe you felt driven to bring more freedom or individuality into how you enjoy life. In any event, Uranus in the fifth was about shaking loose any rigid ideas around pleasure, love, or creativity that may have kept you playing too small. But now, starting in July, Uranus is entering your sixth house, which governs work, routines, your physical health, habits, your time management, and service in general. So over the next 7-8 years, your daily life is about to get a makeover. Expect changes in how, where, and even why you work. It's a time to break free from rigid schedules or outdated job roles or any unhealthy routines that you have. You may shift into more flexible or tech-oriented work environments, or decide to start freelancing, or maybe just restructure your day-to-day life in order to prioritize freedom more. And if your work feels stagnant or overly controlled, Uranus is going to push for a change, and those can come suddenly. Now, your health routines are also in focus. So you might explore alternative or maybe even like tech-driven approaches to wellness, such as like wearable trackers or biohacking or some new holistic practice, something unconventional, or something that you would think is unconventional. And at times you may feel more sensitive to stress or overstimulation, especially mental overstimulation, since Gemini rules the nervous system. And the goal isn't to create chaos, but to develop sustainable habits that actually fit your life, not just what you think they should look like. So you may be asked to take on new roles at work that involve some form of communication or media or just multitasking, especially if it's in service to others. And the key is to try to stay open and adaptable to these changes, because the more you resist change in your work or workplace or your health routines, the more Uranus is going to try to force your hand. But if you lean in, it can be a period of major breakthroughs in productivity or your work or in wellness. And like I said, for the last 7 years, you've been challenged to loosen up, to take more creative risks, to take more romantic risks, to embrace more freedom in love and fun and self-expression. But now Uranus shifting into your sixth is asking you to reinvent how you work and how you take care of your body and how you manage your daily life. So embrace the opportunity to rebuild all of those routines with a little bit more intelligence and purpose and even flexibility, because the way that you live each day is going to shift for the better if you stay open to those energies. So, Cap Risings, if you found this helpful or you see any signs of this coming about already, please drop a comment below or like the video. And good luck. Okay, my Aquarius risings. So, over the past 7 years, Uranus has been moving through your fourth house, which governs home, family, your roots, your emotional foundation, and your sense of personal security. This transit likely brought changes or even instability in your domestic life, sometimes disruptively, but often necessary for your growth and your independence. You may have experienced sudden moves or changes in living situations or shifting dynamics with family members. And if you stayed in the same home, the energy around it likely changed, perhaps through renovations or unexpected disruptions, or even a desire to live more unconventionally in some way. This could have included moving towards remote living or maybe unconventional co-living situations, or just homes that offer greater freedom and flexibility to you. And at the emotional level, this transit also would have pushed you to break free from old family patterns or expectations, or maybe any inherited emotional conditioning. You are asked to define your version of what home is and build emotional security on those terms, on your own terms, not based on tradition or obligation or what others expect from you. So while this may have been unsettling at times, it likely created the groundwork for more authentic inner stability for you. But now, in July, Uranus is moving into your fifth house, which rules creativity, romance, self-expression, and children, right? What brings you joy. And after years of restructuring your inner world and your home life, your attention now shifts to expressing yourself more freely and more playfully. It's a great time to explore new ways of being creative, especially through writing or media or communication, anything involving new technology, right? Since Gemini rules all of these areas. And you may develop new hobbies at this time, or different creative outlets, or find passion projects that feel different from anything you've done before. The fifth house is about enjoyment and individuality. It's about creation that comes from the body. So Uranus here is going to encourage you to experiment and take creative risks and express yourself more authentically, even if it defies social norms. Now, romantic life may also change. You might attract unconventional partners at this time or experience unexpected romantic developments. Maybe you're going to feel drawn to relationships that offer more freedom in some way or more mental stimulation. It's not the most stable energy for long-term attachment, but it's excellent for exploring new sides of love and attraction that can maybe break you out of old molds. And, the fifth house also governs children. So whether they're your own children or it's just the idea of having children, those things can become a theme, right? You might take a different approach to parenting at this time, or maybe you conceive unexpectedly or find yourself involved with children or youth or education in some new way. And if you're involved in any creative or entrepreneurial ventures, the transit can bring real breakthroughs, but not without shaking up how you take risks and how you share your talents and how you share them differently than you had previously. So, in recap, the last 7 years changed your idea of home, likely physically and even emotionally, pushing you to find stability in your own unique way. And now Uranus moves into your fifth house, encouraging creative freedom and romance and a new redefinition of what joy means to you. It's a time to follow your curiosity and break out of routines and just rediscover what lights you up without worrying about how it looks to others. So, if you're seeing signs of this manifesting already, or if you found this interesting or helpful, please drop a comment below. Let me know. And yeah, best of luck. Okay, Pisces rising. So, my Pisces rising, over the last 7 years, you've had Uranus moving through your third house. And it governs communication and learning. It's your thinking patterns, as well as siblings and local environment, and just short distance travel in general. So it's likely been a period of mental awakening where, you found changes in how you speak, how you think, and interact with the world, and they would have shifted in very unexpected ways. You may have changed how you communicate, possibly through writing or public speaking, and technology may have played a major role in that. Now, some Pisces risings probably embraced digital platforms and launched social content or social media channels, or shifted their thinking to be more innovative or outside the norm in some way. Because Uranus in this house often brings mental restlessness, and you may have felt more curious, but also more scattered and more eager to break away from anything that felt repetitive or outdated in terms of ways of thinking. And this transit could have affected your relationship with siblings or neighbors, people in your local environment very much. Those dynamics may have become more unpredictable or more detached. You might also have changed where you live locally, right? Maybe you traveled more frequently and you had more local travel and errands to run and you were constantly on the move. You could also have restructured how you handle your daily tasks. And overall, Uranus here would have broke you out of your mental comfort zone and rewired your outlook in a more forward-thinking and independent direction. But now, beginning in July and fully locking in, by April of 2026, Uranus is moving into your fourth house, which rules your home, your family, your roots, your emotional security, and also your private life. So, after shaking up how you think and how you communicate, Uranus now turns its attention to your foundation, to where you live, to who you live with, and how emotionally grounded you feel. So expect changes at home, not just literally, but emotionally. You may move unexpectedly, or renovate, or change living arrangements. Maybe you're going to embrace a more non-traditional home life in some way. And some Pisces risings may explore remote living, or communal setups, or just downsizing, maybe because it gives them greater freedom. If your home environment has felt stifling or overly predictable in some way, Uranus is going to push for change, and sometimes through disruptions, but often as a call for more independence. And your family dynamics may also shift. You might detach from certain family patterns or take a more objective view of your upbringing and how it shaped you. It's a good time to explore emotional healing, especially if you felt boxed in by expectations or roles from the past that were defined for you. And Uranus in the fourth wants you to redefine what and where home really is for you, not for anyone else. So what you find normal doesn't have to be other people's normal. This transit can also be about emotional self-reliance. So while you may crave more space or more independence, you're also building a new kind of inner stability for yourself, one that isn't rooted in tradition, but it's more rooted in whatever your personal truth is. Because the last 7 years have reprogrammed how you think, how you communicate, and how you learn. It's opened your mind up to all new possibilities. And now Uranus moves into your fourth house, right? disrupting and redefining your sense of home, family, and emotional security. So be open to change in your living situation as well as your personal life, and focus on creating a foundation that feels true to you, even if it doesn't follow the usual rules. So if you found this helpful, or if this is resonating anyway, or you're seeing manifestations of this already, please drop a comment below or feel free to like the video, and good luck. So in closing, I would say Uranus transits are never quiet, right? They shake the ground beneath all of us, often in ways that we didn't expect or could never expect, but ultimately need. And as Uranus settles into Gemini, we're entering a chapter defined by innovation, by disruption, and just reinvention of the mind. So the systems and tools we rely on to communicate, to travel, to learn, and to trade are all up for transformation. And while this energy can feel chaotic at times, it's also full of potential, right? Change doesn't always come gently, but it does come with purpose, and change is not always bad. It's just different. So keep in mind that Uranus will work differently for each of us, right? Depending upon how it hits your chart, the aspects that it's going to make to your natal planetary placements. And while the collective themes are going to be clear for everybody, your personal experience may be quite specific to you. So stay adaptable. Keep in mind and be aware of what's coming down the pipe and what's going to happen, and just stay open to that and be aware of it, right? It's going to be a time to challenge old assumptions and think in new ways, and really embrace the unknown in a lot of ways. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help my channel grow and allows for content like this to reach more people. I also read every comment, and I value the community that we're building here. So whether you're new or you've been watching for a while, thank you for being part of this. And make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a future video. Yeah, and thanks for watching. Good luck. I'll see you in the next video.